Professor Steven Driscoll at Glasgow University said of Govan, "Govan has had two eras of greatness, which is two more than most places."
In 870 AD, the Vikings attacked Dumbarton Rock and laid siege to it for 4 months, and eventually overwhelmed the defenders, the Britons, and they destroyed the fortress. And this technically should have been probably the end of the Kingdom of Strathclyde, but it seems to have survived. The kings moved their power centre further upstream, further up the Clyde, to Govan and Partick.
Govan, of course, is a special place for a whole load of reasons. I mean, the prehistoric dimension's been underplayed in the past because we don't really have any tradition of the Doomster Hill being necessarily a prehistoric site, but it has these amazing medieval connotations and the whole landscape of the church and, you know, that kind of big parliament type centre of power. That's really important. But I think that added time depth, that this is a place where it was established because people wanted to cross the river here, maybe 7,000 or 8,000 years ago, back into the hunter-gatherer period. You know, that this is in a place that's always been important, one of the most important places in the foundation of eventually the city that becomes Glasgow. So to give that extra added time depth, I think just makes it all the more special, and I think that's something that hopefully can become a bit more apparent to the people who live here over the next few years.
Govan is thousands of years old. People have been coming to Govan as a spiritual centre long before Christianity was here. So it's been important spiritually for thousands of years.
It seems that the Doomster Hill's original purpose was as a Viking-type moot hill, a stepped mound.
In the early medieval period, they used meeting hills, moots, tings, all those kind of things. Quite often they would reuse prehistoric mounds, they would augment them, make them bigger, or give them a flat top to allow a space for people to be on top, or create steps on the side. So I think it's really likely that this was a mound that was known about to be ancient by people in the early medieval period, and then they came along and they repurposed it, they reworked it for their own purposes, and by doing that then they gave it a completely new lease of life and a new meaning. I think that reworking was also about reworking the myths and legends about the site as well for probably political purposes.
When you do have the physical reality of, you know, Doomster Hill was there, it was an important place. The kings met there, they passed down their judgment from there. It was the law courts of the day.
Given that the Doomster Hill is located quite close to what we think was the main royal church of the kings of Strathclyde, it seems likely that it was the kings themselves who were using the Doomster Hill in Viking times as their Parliament Hill, or maybe the seat of their court, probably where they held major ceremonies or dealt out justice.
It's such an amazing place, really, and the kind of depth and breadth of history and stories there is really quite breathtaking.
Where Govan Old Church stands, there has been a church there since the 6th century. Do you know, right there. So these are constant things, these are constant reminders of how old Govan is and how important it is. The fact that the Picts, the Celts, the Vikings buried their dead there, specifically in that area, is an indicator of how important the people of the past felt it was.
I think raising awareness of the earlier history has given it that little extra nudge. The slight difficulty with some of the sort of shipbuilding stuff is it's seen as an industry that failed. I don't think that's fair, but I think that is kind of the perception.
Shipbuilding was life. The whole of working life, social life, community life was centred around the shipbuilding industry here. Apprentices went into the yards, they got married, they had kids, their kids went to school, those kids left school, became apprentices and went into the yards. It was generations of very confident. We knew where we were going, we knew who we were. The word Clyde built was synonymous with quality, in the world. Everybody knew that if something that was built on the Clyde, it was real, proper stuff, and it wouldn't sink.
The shipyards itself was three great men that I know of, which was Napier, Pearce and Elder. And they created Govan through industry. They turned this place from a wee fishing village into something that was big on the map.
Everybody knew somebody who either worked in the yards or worked in ancillary industries, or friends there, so it's very connected, and it had a huge impact on the physically had a huge impact on Govan, but also psychologically.
Govan's your typical, we are not going to give in. No matter how many times you kick us, we're going to come back again. The shipyards is the perfect example. They've shut that down that many times, and it's not been allowed to be closed. It's determined, it's staying there. It's here, and it's here to stay.
Like the men of the shipyards who fought for their rights, they couldn't be moved, the working was their strike. And Lenin's red roses marked deeds but not graves. Those men became heroes at the shipyards. The shipyards were saved.
Many years ago, my father helped maintain the cranes, the big Clyde cranes down there, and I got quite a lot of pride standing here today. He used to go down there quite a lot, and he was a steel fitter erector, that was his title, and they'd climb up these cranes with a safety harness on and make sure everything was working properly. Sometimes in aerial masts as well. He used to help aerial masts, and he's a government man like myself, and that sadly is no longer here, but as I say, I feel a sense of pride whenever I come down here,
I think there's still a lot of pride in shipbuilding, but it's kind of mixed in with other emotions, whereas the kind of deeper history is something slightly different. I suppose there's maybe still a kind of sense of loss in that you get Glasgow muscling in on the action and Govan's kind of eclipsed.
A lot of people say big disasters in 1912 was the Titanic sinking. To me, the big disaster in 1912 was Govan was eaten up and became part of Glasgow. Because we could run Glasgow a lot better than they can run us.
And now Govan had lost its way. Shipbuilding was gone, it wasn't coming back, it seemed. So there needs to be a new future invented, created, discovered.
I would like to see more activities in local Pearce Institute halls, because in the old days they used to run dances in there, and it wasn't just for one particular age group, but for family events. People used to bring their children to these events as well.
I would like to see it regenerated the way they're doing quite a bit. At the Pearce Institute and the statue and the pub. Hopefully the Lyceum will be back again.
So the Govan Stones project was kind of set up to help provide a bit of a future and a bit of a direction for the church. Certainly the collection is quite well known in academic circles. That's starting to expand a wee bit. More people are getting to know about it in the local population as well.
I'd like to see people talk about Govan and use the word and it sounds positive in their mouth. That'd be something I'd like to see.
It's been really amazing to get into the project and see the history of Govan as it is, like not just the stones, but the church, the graveyard, that whole thing kind of come into public eye and sort of see visitor numbers kind of skyrocket as the redisplay project's gone up.
I mean, the renovations around the place are incredible. Just on the way here, I saw that guys are putting an ornate wrought iron fence around the statue, Pearce's statue. So it's You know, it's a wee touch, but it's making a statement, you know.
The project is really to create a kind of hub, something that reflects how important the kind of early medieval sculpture, how important they are as a cultural asset for Govan. So the idea being that regeneration does well when it's linked in with kind of heritage projects, when you've got a kind of focal point. And yeah, the stones were quite clearly the most kind of important asset in those regards for Govan.
We maybe need to just find a way to bring back that sense of enterprise, that there's still things that can be done for the people.
Govan's very close to my heart, you know, because I have lived here 20 years, my kids have went to school here, and as I say, it's nice to see, you know, the heritage and the importance of Govan historically being, you know, given some consideration, because it is often overlooked, and you know, it says it does get some bad press, and it's nice to focus on the more positive aspects of Govan's history.
There's a lot of nice people in Govan. Govan's a lovely place, and quite often when you go around here, there's always somebody that will help you if you need a help. I've always found that. It's always been part of the Glasgow and the Govan tradition to help a fellow friend if you could, you know.
Growing up in Govan, it was always, I reckon it would be one of the most friendliest places ever. There's nobody didn't know anybody, and if they didn't know you, they soon made sure they found out who you were.
It's a real lovely, special place. There's definitely no other place in Glasgow like Govan. Like, you know, there's a lot worse places you could be, a lot better places to be, but the people are always really nice, they're always really supportive of what we do here.
There seems to be quite a good sense of community as well.
Yeah.
There's a very, very strong sense of identity. And I suspect that people are Govan first and Glasgow second. Govan obviously has a reputation of, you know, it's a hard place. Maybe it's a dangerous place. I've never had any trouble in all the time I've been here. But that thing about them being, there's a fight breaks out every 10 minutes, it doesn't. But they're capable of a fight. That's a different thing.
I think a lot of it's down to the social side. I really like the people. They're pretty feisty, and I think Liz said if you stand still for long enough, you'll have somebody coming up and chatting to you within. But I think she said 10 minutes. I think I'd say at least half that actually.
There is a capacity for joy and hope that still exists in this community, and I think that's a kind of spiritual legacy.
That's what Govan's all about, making people smile.
Many years ago, when they had the old ferry here, they had a car ferry went from this particular spot, and the car ferries would pay to go across, and the young people, they would go in and they'd pack a lunch and go over to party for the day, go to a museum.
The old ferry was brilliant, I loved it. It was like a skateboard. That's all it was. It was just a plank of wood with an engine in the middle and a wee hood. And it used to run up the stairs and chase you. That's what it felt like when I was a kid.
And it helped alleviate the stress of the working families in these days, the ones that are maybe a bit poorer.
Well, Govan used to be a place where you run about the streets with no shoes on, and you played with the rats, right? So the only change now is you've got shoes.
And my best memories have got to be the old Govan Fair. It was absolutely fantastic. It was always raining, but it was fantastic. Watching all the floats and the bands and things like that. You had street vendors with monkeys and things like that. It was really a really big attraction then.
We used to have an old picture hall down here in Govan, the Lyceum, as you know. And when I was a wee boy, that's when I had my first kiss when I was 13, upstairs in the balcony.
What makes Govan unique? The people. Because the people's got the heart, and Govan is the heart of Glasgow. Always will be.
Tall flowers stand under the broadleaf tree, and the grass grows green and fair. We soak in sun till the day is done, and love is in the air.
floats in the air. Well, the world turns old and the world turns young. It's a new world every day. But the youngest song is the oldest song, for there's nothing new to say. No, there's nothing new